lovely people, I'm Catherine and welcome to this week's episode of Park Home Life. I'm actually driving, so apologies if I don't look you in the eye the whole time that I'm speaking, but I do have to keep my eyes on the road. It's around a year since the first episode of Park Home Life was aired, I guess you call it, and I've come a long way in that year. The first episode I went to the beach and I bought a cordless drill, not at the beach, on the way home obviously. And today I'm going to go to that same beach, and I don't need to buy a cordless drill because I've already got one. So I just thought it would be nice to share a little bit of that with you, since you were here the first time that Stella and I went. So on Monday, last Monday, the 8th of September, was the 1 year anniversary of my first night in my new home, when I actually arrived there with all my stuff and Stella and Fredfred and started turning it into a home. And I must say that my feelings then and my feelings now about my home have changed enormously, because in the beginning I was not sure I'd be happy living in a park home after being used to, you know, a 4-bedroom house in France with 13 acres. I was very happy to be back in England, and I still am, with all my friends and, you know, just familiar surroundings. But I must say I love my little park home now. I always wanted to live in a yurt. I think many of you may identify with that. And I kind of think of my park home as a sort of rectangular yurt. So it's very much home. You'll have seen it if you've been here any length of time. You'll have seen the tour or tours now and then when I put my work up on the walls, and I made my cheese box shelving for my little room. One lady, I was calling it my studio, very tongue-in-cheek, because it's tiny. Sorry, I'm behind a tractor, so I've got to go down through the gears. I was calling it my studio, sort of tongue-in-cheek. And then I was calling it my craft room, and no name really stuck. And then one lady said, in Britain, I don't know how it is in other Anglophone countries, but we call if you've got one of those tiny bedrooms, you know, often you have these houses, these 3-bedroom houses have 2 reasonable bedrooms and 1 tiny bedroom. The tiny bedroom is often referred to as the box room. And I don't know if that's because you keep boxes in it because it's not big enough for, you know, to be an actual bedroom, or whether it's because it's the size of a box. But one lady suggested some time ago that I call my little room the cheese box room. So that is now what I call it. Anyway, that's a complete tangent, sidebar as Jerry would say. So the plan, I just woke up this morning on a whim. It's a nice day in between some rainy days. Not that I'm complaining about the rain, we were very glad of it. So I just woke up and I said to Stella, she was sat by the door waiting to go for our normal walk in the woods, you know, near home. I said, oh, let's go to the beach. You know, it just seems fitting a year on to go back to that same beach. I'm just looking at the view, and I really must find a way that I can have the camera the other way round, so that you can look at the scenery and listen to me witter rather than just looking at me. How it is at the moment, it actually slots it. My car's got a built-in CD player, and my thing that my phone goes in, that I use as my sat nav if I need it, and also now to talk to you, is slotted into the CD player. So you're quite low down. If I turn the camera around, all you'd see would be the dials that, you know, control the heating and all that. So that won't be very interesting either. Anyway, I must find a way that I can get you higher up, because the scenery is beautiful. I'm going through little country lanes. The tractor's turned off, so I've speeded up a bit, not too much, because there's houses here and there, you know. And we'll be at the beach in, I guess, about 15 minutes time. So I mentioned in last Friday's video, the first episode of the nettle pouch that I'm making, and by the way, I've brought that with me. I'm going to do some stitching on that sitting on the beach, about camping, and that I'd bought a second-hand tent. Now, it's autumn here in the UK. Well, it's September, obviously. It's September everywhere. But here in the UK, autumn's just beginning. And you might say, Catherine, why didn't you buy a tent in the spring? Then you'd have had the whole summer to go camping. Well, to be honest, I did think of it. But I needed to process the idea of doing it, you know, if that makes any sense at all. The time just didn't seem right, and I wasn't sure what kind of tent, and I wasn't sure if I would actually use it now that I'm on my own. I've got Stella obviously and Fredfred, but he wouldn't like camping. He can stay at home with my neighbour. He absolutely loves my neighbour, and that is such a great bonus of living where I do. If I'm outside chatting to her and he's indoors, he hears her voice, he comes running out and rubs around her legs, and she makes a fuss of him, and she actually enjoys it. Although she's got her own cat is a rescue cat that isn't very fond of cuddles. So yeah, she absolutely loves Fredfred. I'm just coming to the beautiful little town of Bedminster, so I just need to slow down and pay attention because I need to do a couple of turns. Yeah, so he won't come camping, but I thought, well, either Stella and I can just go on our own, and I'm not really talking about going for like a week's holiday or whatever, but who knows. I'm more just thinking of going quite locally, because I'm very lucky to live in this beautiful part of the world. Just thanking Amanda for stopping to let me go through. Just for a night or two, because one of the things I do miss is being able to have a fire. We're not allowed to have even barbecues out in our gardens, although some people do, but that's another story. And in France I had a big fire pit, and I used that to do my eco dyeing on, and also we took it camping. We didn't go camping in France. When we lived in the UK, we used to take it camping because we had the big old Land Rover, and we had a big 5-metre canvas bell tent, 5-metre diameter, and we would have a proper mattress, and the kids had pup tents, and we had canopies and rugs and a little wooden, it was actually converted from an old wardrobe cut in half as like a kitchen unit, and you know, it was like proper what they call glamping, I guess. Glamping, hippie style maybe. So I obviously can't do that on my own. Well, I won't do. I guess I could, but you know, I'd need a Land Rover and all kinds of other stuff. I'm not doing that. I can't afford to do that. So rethinking the idea of camping in a different way, that's partly what I've been percolating on. Would I enjoy it as much to, you know, go back to a little nylon, you know, small pup tent type thing, and having to have a blow-up mattress of some kind at my age. I'm not that old, I know, I'm only 60, but I do have a little bit of hip pain every now and then, you know. I'm sure you all know how it is, little aches and pains. So could I actually go back to sleeping on a blow-up mattress? All those thoughts. Anyway, I've just decided to not overthink it anymore and to just do it. So I was talking to a friend of mine who's actually in the process of converting her Fiat Uno, which, if you don't know what that is in other countries, that's a very, very tiny little car. And she's made a foam mattress in the back, all with repurposed foam, and a storage box and all kinds of things. And she had the idea that we'd go together in her car and I'd sleep with her on this mattress. Well, the other day, she's a fair bit younger than me, she demonstrated folding out her mattress, hopping in, which was no mean feat. I mean, even that alone would have been difficult for me without steps and things. And then pulling the boot shut behind her, and she had to lay with her, you know, almost fetal position. And she said, "Look, there's room for you there." I said, "No, I'm sorry, there isn't room for me there at all, not to sleep and wake up and be able to move in the morning." So then she actually started looking on Facebook Marketplace for tents for me. So she's given me a little push basically, and she managed to find this little tent. It's actually a 3-person tent, but you know, they're always smaller than you know, that would be 3 people like sardines. So it's actually just big enough for a mattress for me and a little bit of space at the side. So if one of the kids is here and they want to come as well, we can go together, and of course Stella will fit in. And then it's got a tiny little porchy area on the front, so you can leave your, you know, your walking boots and whatever in there. So I got that very reasonably priced, not a 5-minute drive from my home, so that was perfect. I haven't put it up yet because I've got nowhere to put it up. I'm going to go and put it up in a friend's garden in a couple of weeks, because I don't want to be putting it up for the first time on a campsite with people looking at me. And have a trial run. It's pretty straightforward, you know, but you know. So going back to when I was a child, when I must have been 4 or 5, I was born up north, as many of you know, and then my parents moved down to the New Forest when I was just 3, and we had a Ford Cortina estate car and not a lot of money. My dad was a gas fitter and my mum wasn't working at that time, and we used to go camping, one air quote, other hand on the steering wheel, Catherine, and I'm in a 30 zone, so I need to just watch my speed. We used to go camping in the car just for a night in the New Forest, or maybe 2 nights even sometimes. And my parents had a mattress in the back, it was an estate car, and then I slept on, my dad made a wooden thing. My dad, I've mentioned before, was a great making things with what he had around the place. Maybe that's where I've got my idea of doing that from. He made a little wooden shelf that just slotted over the handbrake to bridge the gap between the 2 front seats, and then I had another little mattress and a sleeping bag, and I slept across the 2 front seats. In fact, back in the day, can you watch your speed, Catherine? Back in the day, you would not get away with this now. When we were going on a journey, bearing in mind this was 55 years ago or more, that little shelf, he would let the handbrake off, put the little shelf over the handbrake, and I would sit on that shelf while we were driving along so that I could look out of the window. I mean, you couldn't do that now. Obviously the roads were much quieter. Still wasn't probably very safe, but anyway, just remembered that. But anyway, one night we went camping in the New Forest, and when I say camping, we didn't go on campsites, it was wild camping. And we were all asleep in the car. The New Forest, if you don't know, is a national park, and there are free-range ponies and donkeys and cattle and all kinds of things. And in the middle of the night, the car started rocking like there was an earthquake, and it was cows coming and rubbing themselves on the car, scratching themselves. And so my mum was going to my dad, Colin, do something. So he was sleeping in only his underpants. So he opened the door and leapt out of the car wearing only his underpants, barefoot, on the, I don't know what surface we were on, heather probably, and started shouting at the cows. And he went, Gillian, that was my mum's name, give me something to wave. So she threw him the handiest thing, which were his clean pair of underpants laid out for the next morning. So he was chasing the cows, waving his underpants whilst wearing another pair of underpants. And but then after the summer holidays, when we went back to school, we had to write a story about what we'd done in the summer holidays, and of course that was the story that I chose to write. So when my parents went in for parents' evening a little while later, the teacher had great glee telling them about how the whole class had heard about my dad in his underpants, bless him, waving at the cows. Anyway, so that was my earliest experience of camping. And then later on when we lived in Canada, we had a big frame tent, and I've told the story about how we went camping on Prince Edward Island. We actually lived in New Brunswick and just outside St John, on Prince Edward Island. Then we arrived after dark, and my dad put the tent up, and it was blowing a hoolie and lashing with rain. And we got in our tent, and then when we woke up the next morning, we were literally a couple of yards away from the edge of a cliff, and actually the whole campsite was washed out, and everybody ended up having to go and sleep in the community hall for a couple of nights until the ferries could run again. Anyway, so that was another camping experience. And then we camped all through Canada, down onto the east coast of the States, into Maine. I can remember going to Keysar Falls on the river there, and having a trip in a canoe. There was a guy in a jeep who put the canoe on the roof and drove you upriver, and then you gradually worked your way down through the day, because the campsite was right on the river. That was a wonderful day. So yeah, many happy memories of camping. And then when we came back to England when I was about 10 or 11, my parents bought a little caravan, so then we started going caravanning. And then as an adult, I didn't camp for quite a long time. Slow down again, Catherine. and then as an adult later on, with the chap I was with at the time, we had a frame tent, a trailer tent, you know, the little trailers that you tow behind your car and then they fold out with an awning and everything. So I camped like that for a while, and then I didn't camp at all for years. And then when I was with my most recent ex, shall we call him, we wanted to go camping, and we were doing some research about, you know, the best kind of tent or what sort of setup, and we had the Land Rover already. It was actually my Land Rover, and so then we hit on the idea of a bell tent, because they're quite big and heavy, but having the Land Rover, you know, and we had the 2 kids and the 2 dogs at that time, and the Land Rover has roof bars, so you could obviously put stuff up on the roof, and that was great. So then for 2 or 3 years we camped with that setup, mostly in this area, but we went further afield as well. We also went up to the Yorkshire Dales and up to Northumberland and the Lake District and all other various places in the UK. So in France I never camped at all. I always wanted to put a platform up in the woodland there and put the bell tent on it, because we had obviously still had the bell tent, and just leave it up, at least, apart from maybe take it down in the winter, but it was an all year round, or it's still there, still an all year round bell tent, but make it like a little kind of retreat in the woods. But obviously that never happened. So I've had to process all that and, you know, come to the realization that this is my new life. If I want to go camping, then I have to do it in a different way. I have to kind of reimagine it. I hope this is interesting as I'm driving along. I've just arrived in Bridport, so I've only got about another 5 or so minutes to go till I get to the beach. My friend with the Fiat Uno has given me this little push, so I can go alone with Stella just for a night or two. There's quite a lot of places around here where your little pitch has a fire pit, and you can have fires, and I just would love that. And I can take a little travelling Eco Diets kit with me, you know, just a pan and a stick and some string and some cloth and a rusty lump of something, and do some eco printing in various places wherever I go, you know, near a beach, near the woods, whatever. And I'll just see how I go. So I haven't invested very much. I have got a new blow-up mattress and a new sleeping bag, but apart from that, everything I've either got already and adapted, or I've found in charity shops or whatever. So I've still got another couple of bits and pieces that I need to get, and I've got my retreat. Whilst you're watching this, I'll actually be on my retreat. So once I've done all that and I've got everything ready, I'm determined. Oh, hang on, are you coming around? Yes, you are. Sorry, it's quite a busy roundabout. Oh, shush. Sorry. That's me. That's my road rage. Oh, shush. They weren't even honking at me. I don't know why. I don't know. They may be honking at a friend. People honking just make me go, oh, shush. Sorry about that. What was I saying? Yeah, no, I'm determined to go at least once this year, if not more, because the cold doesn't bother me. I can bundle up, and I've ordered a decent... That's why I did buy a new sleeping bag rather than try and find a second-hand one. I'll just make do with bedding that I've got. I've ordered quite a cosy, you know, I think it's called a 3-season bag, so it's not super thick for winter, but, and then, you know, I can wear leggings and jumpers and socks and woolly hats. I don't mind all that as long as it's not raining, but I just won't go if it's going to be raining a lot, you know, just won't go. I can just decide to go on a whim. I can just decide to go, like today I've decided to go to the beach. It's just me and Stella, and Stella's always up for anything, so... And I think maybe for my first outing, I might go to the campsite up on Exmoor, where we always used to go, because I know it there, I know it's beautiful. I used to know the people quite well. Actually, the kids and I spent 2 whole summers there. We would go up when they broke up from school in July and just stay there for the whole 6-week summer holiday. And he had his motorbike, so he'd come and go either to work or to the airport if he was flying off somewhere for work. But yeah, the kids and I would just kind of go feral for the summer, with the 2 dogs, Stella and Sirius, obviously. So yeah, so I have mixed feelings about the idea of going back there, but it's just that when I'm going to do something new to me, which camping's not new obviously, but going on my own is, although I did used to go with the kids in the bell tent and put it up on my own. I used to get them to time me, because the guides for that bell tent said you could put it up in 10 minutes with 2 people, and I like a challenge. I think my record was just under 9 minutes, just me on my own with the kids sitting watching me. And then, as they always jokingly said, another 2 hours to decorate it with the rugs and the fairy lights and the bunting and all the other stuff I used to put in it. Anyway, so what was I saying? Yeah, so have some things that are familiar. So if you're doing something new for me, going camping on my own, then I want to go to a familiar place at least, where I know the people are friendly. I know, I know the surroundings. It's lovely. You can walk straight out onto moorland. It's dog friendly. You're right on the banks of a little river. It's just, it's a beautiful place. So I might do that. Unless another opportunity presents itself to go somewhere else, before I get round to that. But when I do that, I shall share that with you. So there might be some camping adventures coming up. So wish me luck. Well, I'm nearly to the beach. I've just got about another 5 minutes to go, and I think I've run out of steam of things to tell you. And I hope it's worked okay with the noise of the engine and everything. I'm trying to speak quite loudly because I haven't got my microphone with me, but I'll come back to you when I'm on the beach, okay? Okay, so we're on the beach. It's a bit windy, but I've got my favourite spot tucked away. I'll show you. I'll turn the camera around in a minute and show you. Stella's here as well. Stell's, say hello to the people. There she is. She dug a hole already. I'll show you that as well in a minute. I've treated camera lens. Treated myself to a cup of coffee. So I'm just sitting here in my little chair. There are a few dog walkers and a couple of fishermen, but it's pretty quiet. So I'll turn the camera around and I'll show you where we're at and show you the sea and so forth. And then I'm just going to sit here for as long as I fancy, doing some stitching. If I'm still here past lunchtime, I've got some fruit in my bag, but I thought I might treat myself to some chips because they do nice chips here as well. So that's my day all planned out. Lovely, lovely day, I hope. So far it's lovely. And I'm very happy to share it with you. So I have to stop, turn the camera around and start again. So I'll do that. I hope you, sorry. Keep putting my hand over the lens. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm talking very loudly. So I'll turn you around and show you where I am. Okay, so I've turned you around. So this is my view. I'm still sitting in my little chair. There's Stella's holes, which I will fill in before we go. I should get to my feet relatively smoothly without clicking. That's good. So just over there on the horizon you can see Portland. When I stand up it's windy straight away. I'll just show you where I'm sitting. Oops, wobbly. Stells, don't roll in things. She found something there nice to roll in. She thinks it's nice. Unlikely to be fox poo on the beach. Oh, there's some nasty stuff there. I'll pick that up in a minute. So there's my little chair and my little basket, Stella's bowl with her water, and then I'm tucked in this little corner. I'll just reverse a bit. Just tucked in this little corner by these rocks, which gets me out of the wind. I'll just show you up the other way. So that's looking west. Lyme Regis is up there just round the corner. See, it's quite rough. But blue sky and some clouds. Reasonably warm. One of the fisherman's gear, he's gone to talk to his friend. Some people coming past with their dog. Now they've stopped. So there we go. And there goes Stella. We'll have a little walk down in a minute and I'll have a look for a pebble for my windowsill. And then I'll go back and sit in my chair and do some stitching. So I hope you have a lovely day, whatever you're doing. and I'll speak to you in a bit. Okay, I've done a bit of stitching. It's a little bit later in the day. The fishermen have gone. Oh, Stella's, you moved. I wanted to show you Stella because she was laying in her little cave. Another dog's just come walking by, so she stood up. Yeah, she was laying there in the shade. So she was a cave bear. Yeah, I put her on her extending lead because there was a little boy playing with the ball. He's gone down there now with his daddy. And she was spoiling the game. So yeah, so I put her on her lead, but she's fine for a bit, tied to my chair. There she is by my foot. So I'll just show you the stitching that I've done on the nettle pouch so far. And get far enough away. So I've done, I've just pinned that lace up out of the way, and I've couched on a strip of silk, the walnut dyed silk. And I've done some little stick stitches and some French knots. And while I had that lace pinned up out of the way, I'm thinking I might stitch it up that way rather than cover up all that. So I'm still pondering on that. And then the other thing that I've done is on the other side, sorry it's gone blurry, I added more to my circle that come on, focus, that I couched on last Friday with you. So I've done some, I finished whipping round the outside, and then I cut a semicircle out of some of the walnut dyed wool and silk blend, and I used one of my circle templates and I just folded it. And then I did some stitching just on the other side, as you can see. And round the edge of this piece, I'd first done just a running stitch, and then I decided I wanted to whip stitch around the edge, but I kind of lined the whip stitches up with the running stitches to make these little half hexagon shapes, I guess you call them. So that's pretty much all I've done, really. Just, you know, stitching a bit, watching people watching a bit, just enjoying myself. So I'm going to stay here a little bit longer, I think, and then at one point when I start getting hungry I shall go and get myself some chips and then come back again. That's actually that dad and the little boy, I'm so enjoying listening to them playing. He's such a good dad. It's so lovely to hear. Yeah, just talking to that little boy so nicely, and yeah, it's just lovely. Anyway, I'll see you in a bit. Okay, I'm back in my car. It is, what time is it? It is 4:30. So that was a nice long day, unfortunately with a rather unpleasant ending. I took Stella down to the shoreline for a last little walk before we were going to pack up and come home, because the wind has really got up. I mean, I was stitching, but it was extreme stitching. I had to hold on to everything and take the stitch, and then the piece was blowing. Anyway, it was challenging. But anyway, so we went for a little walk just down to the sea, and we came back up to start packing up, and she was off the lead. Bearing in mind this beach, there's a huge stretch where dogs aren't even allowed at all, and then you have to walk with them on the lead up to the area where I was, where they are allowed off the lead. And there was two women and a man sitting there, and Stella literally walked to within a yard of them when we were coming back up, and one of the women started screaming at me to put it on a lead, and it was bothering them, and etc, etc. So I calmly pointed out that it was an area of the beach where dogs were allowed off lead, and she kept saying that it was bothering them. Stella was quaking against me at this point. So I started getting a little bit agitated. Sorry, I still am. I shall calm down. But I didn't obviously want to get into a stand-up row with the woman. So I don't know where it came from. But I packed my stuff up. I emptied Stella's water bowl. I might have accidentally done it ever so slightly upwind of them. So they might have had a little... I was a very long way away. They'd have had a few drops if anything. But then as I was walking past, she was still ranting at me. So in French, I told her to go away in a rather rude way, and called her quite a rude name, but in French, so she didn't understand what I was saying. So it made me feel better, but she looked a bit nonplussed. Anyway, unpleasant woman. But apart from that, it's been a lovely day, and my stitching is, I don't know if I can show you here. Can I show you? Can you see? I've been doing my blanket stitchy thing. I've tacked all that piece of lace down with tiny little invisible stitches. I did those French knots. I don't know if I'd done them already when I showed you before. And I've started doing that interlocking blanket stitch around the curves of the lace. And I think that's all I've done different to what I showed you earlier. And in between I was sat watching some young lads play cricket, and there was a lovely dad with his little boy, and then the little girl came up to play as well, so I was watching them. And yeah, everybody has been lovely. I've had some nice chats with people whilst queuing for coffee. A nice lady was making a fuss of Stella, and I got chatting with her, and she mentioned they were camping, and she's told me I asked about the campsite, and there's a nice campsite about a 15-minute walk from here along the river. So she's given me the name of that to look up. Yeah, 99.999% of people here are nice. There's one woman now frantically Googling what I said to her in French means. So I better beat a hasty retreat before she finds out. Anyway, thank you so much for sharing this important day with me. Thank you so much for watching and for all your support as always. I hope when I edit this that you can hear me okay. You'll probably be able to hear me here, but I mean the bit on the beach with the wind and so on. Anyway, I'll do my best. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Lots and lots of love. And if you're a francophone, a French speaker, you're probably trying to work out what I said. Sorry. But it's made me feel better without escalating the situation. So yeah, a note to myself for the future. If someone is nasty, just speak calmly to them in French. Yes. See you next time. Lots of love. Bye bye. Kisses. Bye bye.